A little bit about BMA Capital. BMA is one of the most experienced firms in mergers and acquisitions in Pakistan. BMA Capital is the only firm in Pakistan to be regularly ranked in international M&A league tables. BMA won second place in the Banker magazine's 2009 Deals of the Year Awards for Asia, excluding Japan, for the work on Sapico's majority stake sale in the Saudi Pak Bank. Please put your hands together and help me to welcome Mr. Farrukh H. Khan, the Chief Executive of BMA Capital.
Assalamu alaikum ji. It's quite daunting standing here looking out, but it's a real pleasure speaking at this important conference. Unfortunately, I was not here for the whole day, but some of the sessions that I attended were really good. And I would like to congratulate both ICAP and TerraBiz for organizing this, and hope that this will become an annual event. Speaking towards the end of a packed conference like this is like being Elizabeth Taylor's 8th husband. You know what to do, but you're not sure how to make it interesting. But anyway. So I hope you'll find my presentation interesting. It is actually a subject of growing importance in Pakistan, and an activity in which the CFO plays an integral, if not the leading role. In particular, the current global conditions, and particularly in Pakistan, make this an area of significant opportunities for all our companies. As the title suggests, M&A is about growth. And that's not just for the buyer, but also for the seller. And we'll talk about this a bit later. It is obviously a vast subject, and in my presentation today, I will focus on the current economic and business environment, the historical context of M&A in Pakistan, and some of the ingredients that make for a successful M&A. And then where we see M&A activity taking place in Pakistan in the coming year. I'll try and keep my presentation short so that we can have some discussions afterwards, because I'm sure there is a wealth of knowledge about M&A in this room. As all of you must be aware, but it's interesting to see, and this chart goes from 1990 till our forecast for 2011. Pakistan's economy rebounds consistently in a V-shaped pattern. The first recession in 93, then 97, then 01, then in 09. And that really shows the resilience that Pakistan's economy is characterized with. Fiscal year 09 marked one of the most challenging times for Pakistan, as well as globally. And I guess it was particularly painful because it was preceded by the last 5 years in which the average GDP growth was almost 7.2%, which then slid down to 1.9%. Since then, the macro situation has stabilized, and we've seen almost all the macro indicators improving. You can see the Eurobond yield declines. At a time, they were yielding almost 25%. They're now down to below 10%, and the rupee has also stabilized. And one of the things which is also pertinent to M&A is, if you look at the Eurobond decline, where it went from 25 to 10, most money, whether in acquisitions or in investments, is really made when things go from the worst to bad, as opposed to when they go from bad to good. And really here lies the opportunity. The valuations in Pakistan, I do believe, are still lagging the fundamentals and the changes that have taken place in the fundamentals, both at the micro level as well as the macro level. For example, in the current reporting season, almost every sector, good companies in almost every sector have reported above expectation results. One of the leading global investment firms recently said that Pakistan presents perhaps the biggest information arbitrage opportunity in the world, because there is a real issue of the difference between perception and reality in Pakistan, which can be taken advantage of and is being taken advantage of by people who are making the effort to understand really where does risk lie and where does opportunity lie? Because the risk-reward ratio in Pakistan, if you understand the risks, can be quite favorable. One of the things here, as I've taken as an example, a number of bank mergers and acquisitions that took place at price-to-book multiples of around 4 to 5 times. Currently, similar transactions are happening at a price-to-book multiple of 1 or below 1. And that's really a key issue in M&A that you need to decide. Was 5 the correct valuation, or is 1 the correct valuation? Are people still shying away from the current valuations? Do they correctly reflect the growth and the opportunities and the underdeveloped potential of that sector or not? I thought it would be interesting to just take it as example. As I said, M&A is not sort of extremely prevalent in Pakistan, but there are groups, there are individuals, businesses that have taken account of. And the Nishad group is an excellent example. They've almost entirely grown, and what they are today is all through M&A. Starting from their textile base, going into financial services, MCB, then into cement, then Adamji Insurance, and recently the acquisition of the AES power interest in Pakistan. They have not only been able to grow, but really reposition themselves in different business sectors and become probably, the largest or one of the largest business groups in Pakistan, almost entirely through M&A. There is unfortunately no complete data available in Pakistan about M&A activities. This is some of the data that we track and that we've compiled. And as you can see, privatization has been a major focus in the M&A activities, as have telecoms and banks. So we've seen reasonable amount of M&A activity that's happened over the last few years. Now, the next couple of slides we'll focus for a few minutes on the nuts and bolts of M&A, and many of these points may seem quite obvious, but I think it is important to dwell upon them and reiterate them, because in the excitement of a deal, many of the most obvious things are sometimes missed out. There has to be very clear reason of why you want to buy or why you want to sell, and ironclad discipline on the due diligence and valuation process. These are critical for a successful acquisition or for a successful M&A deal. And recent corporate history, as we've seen, is littered with failed M&A transactions, whereas investors, whether it's somebody like Warren Buffett or whether it's somebody like Mia Mansha that we spoke about, who've maintained that discipline, have done extremely well. It is also, I think, important to understand that M&A is part of a growth strategy, not just for the buyer, but also for the seller, because it provides seller the opportunity to maybe exit out of some non-core businesses, reposition and redeploy capital into core areas or other growth areas that they wish to focus on. So it is very much about growth, both for the seller as well as for the buyer, whereas generally it's considered that acquisitions are really growth for the buyer and somehow a loss for the seller. Again,